Okay, we're here today with Beef Market Update on RealAgriculture.com with Ann Dunford of Gateway Livestock Exchange. Morning, Ann.
Good morning.
Okay, Ann, it's the 29th of July. What's happened in the markets?
Well, we've got two things going on. You've got still the summer doldrums in this fat cattle market, both in the U.S. and Canada. No big surprises there, and we're right on the verge of entering into, of course, our grass yearling run market ahead of the calf run this fall. And we're seeing two different things. Lots of depressed prices on the finish side, but amazingly still some very strong prices, or it appears to be at the early part of the run on the feeder side.
Okay, last week was the cattle on feed report. What were some of the outcomes of that?
No big surprises on that U.S. cattle on feed report last Friday. Numbers on July 1 on feed down 5% from a year ago. Again, that's been the trend we've seen, and that number should still slip into August 1, which is kind of the typical seasonal strategy. Placement numbers were down 8% in the month of June. And again, bang on with the expectations. Marketings were actually up a little bit in June now. I think the marketing number is going to slow down here in July. So no big surprises, didn't have any reaction on the board, but again, just this overall smaller supply story continuing to build as we go into the second half of this year.
On the fat cattle side, is feed yards are the fall run's coming. Going to start purchasing feeder cattle. What are some of the things that are kind of on their minds? We got feed grains, we've got the fat price, the dollar. There's a lot of things on their mind. Lots
of things on their mind, and I guess sometimes we'll sit here and say, well, this is where the market should be based on the futures and based on where the Canadian dollar is today. But 9 times out of 10, there's so many other factors driving what happens in these feeder markets, whether it's here in Canada or in the U.S. One of the biggest driving factors going forward for both U.S. and Canadian cattle feeders is we've got a shrinking supply of available feeder cattle and calves as we go into the fall of 2009, 2010, 2011. It's what the cow herd's been doing. So we've got a shrinking supply, meanwhile a growing, or at least a fully steady size of feedlots. So we're going to have overcapacity in the feedlot sector in both countries chasing fewer cattle. And I don't need to tell anybody listening to this what that often means is you've got more competition for more cattle, for fewer cattle. So strong prices, tough to sit down and make it work on paper, but again, we've done that a few times before.
Okay. So do you think that we're going to see a lot of cattle come to the market on both sides of the border, or I guess up in Canada here quite early because of the drought?
I think we're going to have a very stretched out run on these yearlings, and I think we started early. Obviously, we had some June run because of the conditions in East Central Alberta and West Central Saskatchewan. So we had some early run there. Now here we're getting some inquiries as we flip the calendar next week to August. We're getting some inquiries right off the bat. Some spots that are running out of grass. Other areas that have been able to catch some of this moisture all the way through and have got better grass conditions, I think we could see those yearlings stay out longer. So long story short, we're probably going to stretch this run out more, and the appearance is going to be all the way through that there's smaller supplies, and so again, that's going to be a driver as well, a supporter.
Where is the fat market? Kind of what prices are we getting right at this point on both sides?
Well, that's the part that's no fun to talk about. In the U.S. right now, Texas last week traded at 83. This week looks like they'll trade about the same level, give or take. And I think you could carry that number on through a lot of August, where we're probably not going to see the market move much either direction in the U.S., give or take $1, right through to Labor Day. They've got enough cattle. And it feels like demand is sluggish enough that really nothing's going to change. Here in Canada, we're still paying for the price of this big move in the Canadian dollar in the last few weeks. Today hovering around 92 cents. It's flirted up to 92.50 this week. And again, every time that happens, it just removes us further and further from that export floor and the export equivalent. So prices here in Alberta today are going to be in the low 80s, $80 to $82. And the concern is that, especially as you get out of southern Alberta, you could see some of those numbers slip under 80 cents. So considering break-evens are probably closer to 90, there's your story. We're looking at $100 to $150 losses today if cattle aren't hedged.
Okay, and finally, kind of an update on the demand side. A bit of a slow summer.
It has been slow. Now, big surprise, no, summer's our slowest period for meat demand. It's been hot in some areas other than Toronto, of course, but it's been hot in a lot of the key areas in North America where our population base is, and you don't go cook roasts, and even in some areas too hot to turn the barbecue on. So it tends to be a hamburger and hot dog time of year, so it's sluggish anyways for our middle meat demand. On top of it, of course, we've had these other issues, a global recession, especially still hanging on in the U.S., and that's paying its price. And the pork side of the market continues to keep getting hammered hard as far as demand is concerned, both export demand and domestic demand in the U.S., and again, a lot of it going back to the H1N1 situation. So all these meats are under pressure. We're having trouble moving the kind of product we would have been. Production levels aren't where they were a year ago, and so the demand story for 09 is not going to be a great demand story.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ann.
You're very welcome.
For more information on Ann Dunford and Gateway Livestock Exchange, go to gatewaylivestockexchange.com.